Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Um, I don't know if it's anyone else, but I have a tendency to think, am I doing this right? And when I mean doing this right, I mean, being a parent. Um, Parenthood is hard, especially, you know, being a father. I It's terrifying to me because I am raising a boy, to be a man, and it's always a scary and worrisome topic for me because I don't want my son to grow up. Um, I know that it's going to happen regardless whether I like it or not. Saying goes, time stops for no man. Um, but it's still a scary thought um, that he's getting older. And I mean, he just turned 3 and he is a rambunctious, petty 3-year old. And I love every moment of it. And my wife can attest to the level of pettiness that that boy has. And he's just so smart. And he will, you know, best us sometimes. I think right now, the funny thing is, we told him that he can't be screaming inside. It's going to be using his inside voice. But we did tell him, like, hey, when we're outside, you can scream. So whenever he goes outside or whenever he knows that he is outside, that boy will scream. And it doesn't matter where he is, he will scream once he's outside. Right now, my wife went to go pump gas and he saw her open the door and he was like, outside, let out a scream. And if you've ever heard my son scream, it is not a normal scream. It is a very high pitched scream. It sounds like, he like bloody murder. And he just has fun with the fact that he can scream. Um, and we can't fault him for it because he listened. I mean, technically he's right. He is he is 100% within his right to scream because mom and dad said you can scream outside, and he's like, I'm outside. I can't get in trouble, and it's true. So it's funny. But like I said, he's getting older. And it terrifies me and it scares me, and I don't want him to get older. And as selfish as that sounds, I love watching him grow. That is never um it's never something that I can say that I don't enjoy. I love seeing him grow. I loved seeing him grow from the time that he was born. He was born premature. He was in the NICU for 6 weeks. And that was some of the scariest times because he was in an isolate. He was like in a little incubator. Whenever we'd visit him, we visited him every day. We were at that hospital every day for 6 weeks. Um, I was a night shift nurse. I would get off work, go home. Mind you, this was still COVID happening. Go home, take a shower, um, which was terrifying in and of itself. I was always scared that I was going to take something to him, and that was just it was terrifying. But I could not go and see him. I had to be there every time. Me and my wife had to be there. And it was hard to leave and then have to come back because I worked where he was born and I did not want to go see him because of where I was working and what I was exposed to. And I was terrified to bring him anything, especially in his fragile state. Um, but like I said, we were there, for 6 weeks, all day, every day, watching him grow. And it was amazing. It was terrifying because, we'd open his isolette just to, put a finger on him, just to touch him. And we would see, his O2 sat, or his oxygen, sorry, um, drop slowly to the point that we're like, okay, we need to close it now so he can recover a little bit. Um, and it was so hard. It was hard not to, grab him from that isolate and just, cuddle with him. And he was the smallest thing. Um, and now, I mean, he's a big boy, and he will tell you that he's a big boy. And I'm like, your dad's baby? And he'll be like, no, I'm a big boy. But then, I'm like, are you Dada's baby still? And he's like, yeah. And I have to tell him, like, you're always going to be Dada's baby. And it is the most terrifying thing to when he's going to be like, no, I'm not Dada's baby anymore. Um, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it does, it's fine. But I know inside, like emotionally, it's going to make a tear come to mind. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to tear up, and my wife will probably laugh at me for it. And that's okay. But it's scary. It's scary that I'm raising a man. I'm raising a boy to be a man. And it is terrifying. And yeah, I don't know how to handle that. And the day that happens, me and my son are gonna fight. No, we're not. Completely kidding. It's just it's a scary thought. Am I doing this right? And I would like to say yes, but of course that's my own opinion. Um, I we try and enforce things in our household. To I want him to be honest. I want him to be truthful. Not to lie. Um, right now it's going through the motions of no means no, yes means yes, get down means get down, stop means stop, don't jump off that means don't jump off that, things like that. Just trying to keep him safe for the most part. But when he gets older, kind of reinforcing the bigger things, like being honest, being trustworthy, being responsible, being accountable, things like that. It's terrifying because I'm the one that has to enforce that. I'm the one that has to instill those things in him. And I can only speak from my side. It's scary because what if what my right is not what the world's right is? If that makes sense. I know that sounds complicated. It works better in my brain. Um but trying to raise, a respectable young man um is gonna be a challenge. Because I'm fantastic. Shout out to father and mother and father, um, for that. But can I also do the same for my son? Like thinking about my parents, the way they raised me. I was, I was a bad kid. I was bouncing off walls. I was doing my own thing all the time. I got hurt a lot of times. Um, and my parents didn't have a manual. None of us have a manual, actually. Um, and I mean, you can read so many like parenting books, and it's not going to get you prepared for anything. Um, I remember, before our son was born, I got advice from a multitude of people, and some people were like, "Yeah, read this book." Um, and I'm not a reader. I didn't read the book. I'll be honest. Just flying solo, just by my coattails, essentially. And now that my son's growing, it's basically all we can do. That's basically like all my parents did, and that's okay. I mean, I turned out pretty okay, I think. I'm saying that as I'm talking to myself in a mic. Um, but for the most part, it's my parents did pretty good. Kudos to them. But can I do the same? And that's scary. Can I do the same? Can I replicate, you know, what my parents did for me and the way I turned out? Probably not. I can't say that there's a recipe or a guide to follow, because I know there's not. And I'm not trying to find that. It's just every day is a new thing. Every day is, I guess, a teaching moment in situations. Um, when my son takes a bath, we had to tell him not to be splashing water on the floor because it gets slippery. Um, he doesn't do that anymore. Another thing was like, hey, you can't bite people when you get upset. We're working on it. Not that he bites people. Sometimes he does. He bites mom more. More. But that's another thing. I mean, like, we're working on things. It's just as it gets older, like, am I doing the right thing? I guess I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to know. And I can't tell other people, like, oh, yeah, this is what you have to do, because there's really nothing you can do. It's just taking it day by day and just hoping for the best. Just hoping that, your child turns out okay. Um, that's a scary thought, just to be like, oh, yeah, no, my son's going to be okay with what I've taught him. Because I don't think I'm ever going to be that way. I don't think it's ever going to be like, yeah, I taught him enough. I think I'm probably going to pester my son till he's well into his adulthood, just like my parents do. And I'm okay with that. I'm content with it. My son's going to probably hate it, or he's going to accept it. But there's also things like, I don't know, what to teach him in certain things. I mean, I know healthcare. I could teach him things. I could teach him first aid, teach him how to change a tire, things like that. Um, but there's a lot of things that, I don't know. I can't build a house like my dad. My dad could build a house. But I wasn't raised that way. My dad didn't want me out building houses. He didn't want me doing the hard labor that he did. He always told me, find a job that's inside. And do something, so you don't have to do this. And I took that to heart, and I appreciate the fact that, he did tell me those things, because not that it's not something that people shouldn't do, because it's a respectable, living. It's a respectable career. But my dad didn't want me doing any of that. And he didn't make me do any of that. He's like, as long as you were in school and as long as I was making good grades, he was like, you're fine. Did he get annoyed at me when he told me to hold the flashlight for the car? Heck yeah. Did I hold the flashlight correctly? Probably not. But I'm a product of the way he raised me. And I mean, my mom and my dad did a great job. I want to say that I can do those things, for Ezra, and I probably am going to do those things for him. I want him to, experience what he wants to experience. I want him to grow into himself and do what he wants to do, but I also want him to, be respectable, be accountable, be honest. And I mean, the only thing I can do is just enforce those morals in my house, and pray that they stick. Um, yeah, it's a very weird notion. Um, I don't know. It's always scary. It's scary still. Um, I know. Yeah. Well, it's all the time I had. I hope you enjoyed my rambling. um, Thanks for listening. Bye.